I refused to stop cooking bacon in my kitchen due to my teenage daughter's vegan lifestyle. So my daughter Emma turned 16 last month and decided she was going vegan. Cool, whatever. I don't really care what she eats as long as she's healthy. But then she started getting all preachy about it, telling me and my wife how we're murderers and destroying the planet every time we ate meat. I just rolled my eyes and kept eating my hamburger. The real problem started about 3 weeks ago when I was making breakfast on a Saturday morning. I had some thick cut bacon sizzling in the pan and the smell was filling up the whole kitchen. Emma came downstairs in her pajamas, took one whiff, and completely lost it. She started screaming about how I was torturing innocent animals and how the smell made her want to throw up. Then she demanded I stop cooking bacon in her house. I laughed and told her it was actually my house since I pay the mortgage and I'd cook whatever I wanted in my own kitchen. She stormed off to her room and slammed the door so hard the whole upstairs shook. My wife Carol tried to play peacekeeper and suggested maybe I could cook bacon when Emma wasn't home. I said absolutely not. This is my house. I've been eating bacon for 43 years, and I'm not changing my breakfast routine because a teenager watched some documentary about farm animals. Things got worse over the next few days. Emma would come downstairs every morning while I was cooking bacon and stand there with her arms crossed, blaring at me like I was personally strangling a pig. She'd make these dramatic gagging sounds and wave her hand in front of her nose. One morning, she even brought down her phone and started recording me cooking, saying she was going to post it online to show everyone what a heartless animal abuser her dad was. I told her to put the phone away or I'd take it for a week. She called me a fascist and stomped back upstairs. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I was making my usual bacon and eggs before work when Emma came down with this big poster board. She'd made a sign that said Bacon Eagles Murder in huge red letters and taped pictures of cute baby pigs all over it. She planted herself right next to the stove and held up this sign while I was trying to cook. I ignored her for about 5 minutes, but then she started making these weird squealing noises that were supposed to be pig sounds. My neighbors could probably hear her through the windows. I finally snapped and told her to knock it off or she was grounded. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Ground me then. At least pigs and factory farms get better treatment than I do in this house." That's when I lost it. I turned off the stove, grabbed her sign, and ripped it in half. I told her I was done with her drama queen act and that she had 2 choices. Either deal with me cooking bacon in my own kitchen or find somewhere else to live when she turns 18. Emma started crying and ran upstairs. Carol came down a few minutes later and told me I was being too harsh. She said maybe we could compromise somehow, like I could use the electric griddle on the back porch when I wanted bacon. I said, hell no, I'm not cooking my breakfast outside like some kind of caveman because my teenager decided to become a militant vegan. If Emma wants to eat nothing but lettuce and beans, that's her choice. But she doesn't get to control what everyone else in the house eats. The next morning, Emma tried a different approach. She came downstairs with her laptop and started playing these really loud videos about factory farming while I cooked. The videos had all these horrible sounds of animals screaming and crying. I walked over and slammed the laptop shut. Told her if she pulled that stunt again, I'd take away her internet for a month. She accused me of silencing the truth and said I was afraid to face what I was supporting. I told her the only thing I was supporting was my right to eat breakfast in peace. Yesterday was the final straw. I woke up early to cook bacon before work, and when I opened the refrigerator, all my bacon was gone. Every single package. I found Emma in the living room eating cereal. And when I asked where my bacon went, she just shrugged and said she liberated it. Turns out she'd thrown $12 worth of bacon in the garbage disposal the night before. I made her stick her hand down there and pull out every piece she could find. Most of it was ruined, but I made her pay me back with her babysitting money anyway. I went to the store before work and bought twice as much bacon as before. When I got home that evening, I cooked an entire pound of it just to make a point. The whole house smelled like bacon for hours. Emma sat in the backyard with her windows closed and texted her friends about how toxic her home environment. By the end of that week, the tension in our house was thick enough to slice with a butter knife. Emma barely spoke to me unless it was to make a jab about animal corpses or planetary destruction. Carol kept walking on eggshells, trying to keep peace between us, but honestly, I was done playing the villain in my own home. Every meal felt like a silent protest. Emma glaring from across the table, pushing her tofu around her plate while I unapologetically chewed my bacon. Saturday morning rolled around again, and I decided I wasn't going to tiptoe anymore. I got up early, opened the windows wide, and started frying up a fresh batch of bacon. Thick, sizzling, and glorious. The smell filled every corner of the house. I even whistled while I cooked, just to make it clear I wasn't backing down. Emma came downstairs, arms crossed, jaw clenched. She didn't yell this time. She just looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore, like I was some monster who'd betrayed her cause. "You'll never understand, will you?" she said quietly. "You just want to win," I paused. For a second, the air between us softened. I could see she wasn't angry anymore, she was hurt. And as much as I hate to admit it, that got to me. She wasn't just being dramatic. She was genuinely passionate about what she believed in. But I'm a dad. My job isn't to surrender every time my teenager finds a new cause to fight for. It's to teach her that the world doesn't bend to her will, and that respect goes both ways. So I set the spatula down and said, "Emma, listen. I respect your choices. You can eat however you want. But this is still my home, and I'm not giving up bacon. Not because I hate animals or you, but because I won't live under someone else's guilt." She stared at me, eyes glassy, and whispered, "Then maybe I don't belong here." She turned and went upstairs. I stood there for a long minute, watching the smoke curl up from the pan, wondering if I'd gone too far, or if this was just one of those lines every parent eventually has to draw. That evening, I heard her laughing softly through her door while video chatting with her friends. Maybe she needed space, maybe she was still mad. But at least she was talking again. The next morning, I found a note on the counter. It said, "I'll respect your breakfast if you respect my beliefs. Can we just not make it a war?" I smiled, left her a sticky note back. Deal. But the bacon stays. It wasn't a perfect piece, but it was a start. And for now, that was enough. Story. The police station called me out of nowhere. "We found your missing son at a bus stop. Please come pick him up." I said, "I don't have a son." They just repeated, "Please come." When I arrived and walked into the station, I froze. Standing there was Chapter 1, The Call. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. I was halfway through drafting reports at work when my phone buzzed. The screen flashed unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me pressed accept. "Mr. Khan?" a steady voice asked. "Yes, speaking. This is Officer Malik from the Central Police Station. We found your missing son at a bus stop. Please come pick him up." My stomach dropped. "My son?" I stammered. "I don't have a son." There was a pause on the other end. Then the officer repeated firmly, "Sir, I think you'd better come in. Please don't delay." The line went dead. My mind spun. A prank, a mistake, or something worse. I grabbed my coat, my car keys trembling in my hand. Every scenario played out in my head on the drive over. When I finally pushed through the heavy station doors, the smell of stale coffee and paper filled the air. Officers glanced at me with strange recognition. And then I froze. Across the room, sitting on a wooden bench with a backpack at his feet, was a boy. His hair messy, his hands fidgeting, but his eyes sharp, wide, and hauntingly familiar. It was like looking into a mirror of my own childhood. Chapter 2. The Boy Who Knew Too Much. The boy looked up as if he sensed me before I even moved. His dark eyes widened for a heartbeat. The station noise, phones ringing, typewriters clacking, officers murmuring, all blurred into silence. He whispered one word under his breath. "Dad." The floor tilted beneath me. My knees nearly gave way. I had never seen this boy before in my life. And yet, the way his jawline curved, the shape of his nose, the intensity in his stare, it was like a ghost from my own reflection had come alive. I shook my head, trying to compose myself. "There's a mistake," I muttered, stepping back. I don't have a son." Officer Malik approached with a file tucked under his arm. He flipped it open and slid a birth certificate across the desk toward me. "Then how do you explain this?" I stared at the paper. My name was right there, clear, unmistakable, listed as father. The boy stood now, clutching the straps of his worn backpack. His voice cracked, but his words were steady. "Mom said you'd deny it. She told me one day I'd have to find you myself." My breath caught in my throat. "Who's your mother?" I asked. The boy hesitated, scanning my face as if deciding whether I was worthy of the truth. Then he whispered a name, one I hadn't heard in over a decade, a name I thought was buried in my past forever. My blood ran cold. Chapter 3. A Name from the Past. The name hit me like a thunderclap. It was Sarah. 10 years had passed since I'd last seen her. She'd been a fleeting part of my life. Brilliant, complicated, and reckless. Back then, she disappeared almost overnight. No calls, no letters. I assumed she'd moved on, just as I had. But now, standing before me was proof she had never truly left. Proof she had left me with something more permanent than memories. A son. The boy's hands tightened around his backpack. "She told me you'd never come for us," he said quietly, his voice wavering. "That you only cared about yourself. But when she—" He stopped, biting his lip hard enough to draw blood. "When she what?" I asked, my voice low, barely steady. Officer Malik cleared his throat and set another folder on the desk. "She passed away 3 months ago. The boy has been moving from place to place since. He had your name, and eventually we tracked you down. That's why we called the room swayed around me. Memories of Sarah. Her laughter, her temper, the way she could ignite a room collided with the weight of this revelation. The boy looked at me with those piercing, familiar eyes. She told me you wouldn't want me. But I came anyway because I had to know for myself." I swallowed hard. My life had already been complicated, filled with strained family ties, a crumbling marriage, and work that drained me daily. And yet, in that moment, none of it seemed to matter. Because here was a boy, my blood, my responsibility, my second chance, staring at me with hope and fear in equal measure. I took a step forward. Chapter 4. The decision. The boy's words echoed in my head. "She told me you wouldn't want me." I could feel every officer in that station watching me, waiting for my reaction. My throat tightened. I thought about my own father, stern, distant. A man who never chose me when it mattered most. Was I about to repeat that cycle? I knelt down so my eyes were level with his. "What's your name?" I asked softly. His lips trembled, but he answered. "Adam." The name hit me in the chest. Sarah must have chosen it deliberately. Biblical, strong, hopeful. "Adam," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Whatever your mother told you." She was wrong. I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. His eyes filled with tears. He refused to let fall. For a moment, I saw the fear melt away, replaced by something else. Cautious relief. But before we could say anything more, Officer Malik cleared his throat again. "Sir, there's one more thing. Adam wasn't just found at the bus stop. He was being followed." I shot to my feet. Followed by who? The officer's jaw tightened. "Someone connected to your wife's family. They seemed very intent on making sure Adam never reached you." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Sarah's secret. This was bigger, dangerous, and it meant that taking Adam in wouldn't just change my life. It might put us both in the crosshairs. Still, I put my hand firmly on Adam's shoulder. "They're not taking him," I said, my voice sharp with resolve. "Not now, not ever." Adam looked up at me with something new in his eyes. Hope. Chapter 5. The trap unveiled. I barely slept that night. Adam lay curled on the couch under a blanket, his chest rising and falling in the soft rhythm of exhausted sleep. But my mind was a storm. Why would Sarah's family follow him? Why hide him from me all these years only to dump him at a bus stop and send shadows after him? By dawn, I had my answer. Officer Malik called again. His voice was clipped, tense. "Mr. Daniels, we've dug deeper. Your wife's brother is heavily in debt, gambling bad loans. Word is he made promises to men you don't cross. And Sarah?" He hesitated. "She made Adam part of the bargain." My stomach dropped. "You mean collateral?" "Exactly," Malik said. "They kept him hidden, raised him quietly. But when your brother-in-law couldn't pay, they decided to cash in. Adam wasn't just abandoned at that bus stop. He was bait meant to lure you into their game, because you have something they want." I thought of the business, the estate, the inheritance I had built brick by brick, my assets, my reputation, everything they could never match. And suddenly it all fit. Sarah never just wanted me gone. She wanted control of everything. Adam was leverage, a pawn on their chessboard. But they underestimated one thing. I looked over at my son, still asleep, clutching the edge of the blanket like it was the last rope in a storm. And I made a silent promise. They will never use him again. Not while I breathe. I picked up my phone and called Malik back. Tell your people to let them keep playing. Don't stop them yet, sir, he asked, confused. I smiled grimly. Because this time, I'll set the trap. Chapter 6. Turning the Tables. For the first time in days, I felt clarity instead of chaos. If Sarah and her family wanted to use Adam as a bargaining chip, then I would make sure they paid dearly for even trying. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about protection. Adam wasn't going to grow up thinking he was disposable. I began by calling an old friend, Mark, a corporate lawyer I trusted with my life. Within hours, we sat in his office, Adam quietly sketching superheroes in a notebook while we pored over documents. They'll come for your assets next, Mark said, adjusting his glasses, but they don't realize the trust you built around your grandparents' estate shields almost everything. If they push in court, they'll expose themselves to scrutiny. Good, I said. That's exactly what I want. That night, I staged the first move. I sent Sarah's brother a message, short and sharp. You wanted my attention? You have it. Let's meet tomorrow. Public place. I could practically feel his greed through the reply. Fine. Bring the boy, or else. When I hung up, Adam looked at me with wide eyes. Are we in danger? I knelt down, resting a hand on his shoulder. No, I said firmly. We're not running anymore. We're going to end this together. The next day, as I walked into that meeting, I wasn't alone. Malik's plainclothes officers shadowed the area, cameras were rolling, and every word spoken would be evidence. Sarah's brother grinned as if he had already won, but when I slid a folder across the table, full of trust deeds, asset protections, and evidence of his debts tied directly to criminal networks, his grin faltered. You're finished, I whispered, and for the first time, he believed me. Chapter 7. The Queen's Gambit. 2 days later, Sarah made her move. She swept into the lawyer's office with that same arrogance I remembered. Her designer heels clicking against the floor, her lawyer boyfriend trailing behind like a shadow. Adam shrank behind me instinctively, his small hand clutching my jacket. Sarah smirked. So, this is where you've been hiding. Adam, sweetheart, come here. Mommy's going to fix everything. But Adam didn't move. He buried his face against my side. That flash of hesitation in Sarah's eyes was worth more than any revenge plan. Still, she recovered quickly. You can't keep him. You're not fit to raise a child. The court will see that, especially when I present the evidence of your so-called instability. I leaned back in my chair, calm, almost bored. Is that the evidence from your phone? The one Adam gave to the police? Her face went pale. Across the table, Mark slid a USB drive toward her lawyer. You may want to review what's on this before you embarrass yourself in court. Videos, voice messages, all showing who really abandoned Adam and why. Sarah's lawyer stammered. This is inadmissible stolen property. Officer Malik, who had quietly entered moments earlier, stepped forward. Not stolen. Legally obtained as part of a child protection case and admissible in court. For the first time, Sarah's mask cracked. Her lips trembled, her eyes darted, and she realized she had lost control. I leaned in, my voice barely above a whisper, but sharp enough to cut her. You thought you could break me. You thought you could trade Adam like he was property. But now you're the one about to lose everything. Sarah slammed her hand on the table, glaring at me with pure hatred. This isn't over. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. Adam looked up at me, and for the first time I saw pride in his eyes. Chapter 8. The Courtroom Reckoning. The day of the custody hearing arrived. The courtroom was packed. Lawyers, reporters, even a few curious onlookers who smelled scandal. Sarah strutted in, wearing an expensive suit. Her mother at her side, her lawyer clutching a thick binder as if victory was guaranteed. I sat quietly, Adam's small hand in mine. He didn't speak, but his grip told me he trusted me now. That was all the strength I needed. The judge opened proceedings. Sarah's lawyer launched into a tirade. Your Honor, My client seeks full custody. The father has a history of instability, financial secrecy, and emotional manipulation. The child deserves a safe and consistent home. It might have sounded convincing if not for what came next. Mark, my lawyer, stood and spoke with deliberate calm. Your Honor, we have evidence that directly contradicts this narrative. May I present Exhibit A? He handed over the USB. The clerk inserted it into the court system, and the big screen flickered to life. The first video played, Sarah screaming at Adam, calling him bargaining material. Another showed her laughing with her brother, bragging about getting rid of the dead weight. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Gasps rippled across the gallery. Even the judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Then came the audio. Sarah's voice chillingly clear. He'll never know the boy is his, and if he does, we'll make sure he can't use it against us. Sarah leapt from her seat, shrieking. That's Dr. Ed lies. But the judge slammed the gavel. Order, Mrs. Daniels, sit down. Mark spoke again. Your Honor, the evidence shows a deliberate pattern of deception, abandonment, and endangerment. My client didn't fail as a father. He was denied the chance to be one, and yet, despite everything, his son still chooses him. All eyes turned to Adam. The judge asked gently, Son, where do you want to live? Adam squeezed my hand, stood tall, and said with trembling courage, With my dad? He's the only one who ever came for me. Sarah's face crumbled. Her lawyer buried his head in his hands. The gavel came down with finality. Full custody awarded to Mr. Daniels. Assets and protections remain intact. Case closed. Sarah screamed, a raw, broken sound as the bafe restrained her. Her empire of lies had collapsed in a single hour. I stood lifting Adam into my arms. The reporter surged forward, but all I saw was my son's smile. The first genuine smile since I'd met him. Poetic justice. Full circle. The boy they tried to use against me had become the very reason they lost everything. Epilogue. A new beginning. Life changed quickly after the trial. Adam and I moved into a quiet suburb far away from Sarah's chaos. The first few weeks were difficult. Nightmares woke him up at night and he would check the locks on every door before bed. But slowly trust replaced fear. He started calling me Dad without hesitation. And each time he said it, it healed something deep inside me. Sarah's world crumbled. With the custody ruling and her lies exposed, her social circle turned on her. Her mother and brother, once so arrogant, distanced themselves when creditors closed in. The gambling debts came due, and without assets or leverage, they faced lawsuits and humiliation. Local media covered the case heavily. Mother uses child as pawn, loses custody. Every job interview, every social outing, every potential ally saw her through that lens. She became a ghost of her former self, bitter and alone. Adam thrived. He joined soccer, made friends, and even asked me once, Do you think I can invite Grandpa to my game? My father, who had always been stern with me, softened instantly with his grandson. The sight of them together, my father cheering louder than anyone, brought everything full circle. At night, when Adam was asleep, I sometimes thought of Sarah's final words in court. This isn't over. But deep down, I knew it was. Not because the law said so, but because Adam had chosen me. And that choice couldn't be undone. One evening, Adam handed me a drawing. The two of us standing together smiling with the words, Dad saved me. That was the real victory. No contract, no verdict, no revenge could ever be sweeter than that. Was this revenge perfectly justified? Or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below. I read every single one. Hit like if you crave justice and share this story with someone who needs its fire. Subscribe to Revenge Exposed Marks because here betrayals don't sleep. They hunt their owners, every shadow hides a reckoning. Every mask breaks and every betrayal is answered. Stay sharp. Stay unbroken. Stay tuned.